Well, that was Melissa Cohn on the phone. I just rhymed that. Beautiful poetry. Who knows more about business and finance than most of us, and she's very knowledgeable. Now we're going to really change gears here. We have somebody who is a novelist, a documentarian, and has had a very eclectic career. Alan Swyer. Welcome. Alan is joining us from, are you in LA right now?
I'm in Santa Monica, California.
So you've got a book called The Beard, which I haven't
Yep.
read, unfortunately, but I have some info about it in front of me. And it's about a kid from New Jersey who gets a job as an intern in a .com company.
Correct.
So I'm already interested in this because the previous show that I hosted on WOR radio was called Tech Hub. And I did over 200 interviews with people from startup companies throughout New York and San Francisco and the world. And it was very interesting. And they all, I'm glad I'm not a venture capitalist, because I was convinced that I should invest money in every one of them, and 99% of them went out of business.
This is a story about a young guy who drops everything. There are decided autobiographical elements to it, but who drops everything and comes out to the West Coast thinking that this is the opportunity of a lifetime. The first day, the orientation for the new group of interns proves to be pretty disheartening when he's told, everyone is told, look to your left, look to your right, at least one of you will not be here in 6 weeks. Worse than that, he realizes that the ones who are likely to be promoted are preordained. They're the sons and daughters of the rich and powerful. And he's got nothing seemingly going for him in that realm. Somebody else, when they all have to identify themselves at a meeting, says, "Oh, my father is in Who's Who," and he kind of shrugs. Our guy, whose name is Calvin, shrugs and says, "Well, my father's in, so what?" But he's got to find some way to make himself indispensable, which indeed he does. I'm sure you're familiar with the colloquial term beard.
Yes, I think I failed also to mention the title of the book, which is called The Beard. And I have escorted some women to fine dinners for a free meal. So I guess that I've worked as a walker, or possibly, I don't know if I'm the full beard, but you can explain that.
He discovers that that the .com world, which is akin to what Hollywood was not too long ago. It's now the sexy way to rise rapidly to fame and fortune. He discovers that it's a world not just of incredible ambition and backstabbing, but also of that's filled with tremendous lust. And the executives there all want to go to conferences and conventions with their bimbo girlfriend, whatever. The monkey wrench in all that is that very often the wife wants to accompany them. So guess who offers to Swyer, the great and good friend, to the event, whether it's in Paris or Puerto Vallarta or New Orleans, Seattle, wherever. That's how Calvin becomes indispensable and starts to rise up the food chain in record time, only to discover at a certain point that he's got something that he didn't know he had called a conscience.
Yes, some of us have that. Now, I just want to remind our listeners, because I didn't give a station identification before, and I understand that you're from New Jersey and used to listen to WOR, but we're here on WOR Radio at Stribling's, New York, 710 on your digital AM dial, an iHeart Media company with Alan Swyer. Where are you from in New Jersey originally?
I always say that I had the great and good luck to grow up very poor. I was from a really questionable part of Newark, which I loved. And what I loved about it was that whereas my mother's kitchen was usually engulfed in smoke, there was a soul food restaurant down the block that not only had food with amazing taste, but furthermore had the best jukebox I've ever encountered to this very day, which helped not only shape me as a person, but also helped my career in that I wound up doing a tremendous amount of work in the music business, working with people like Ray Charles, Solomon Burke, Billy Preston, Jerry Butler, and even Gulp, the late Ike Turner, which in a funny way led to the writing of this book, because Ray Charles and I became very good friends, and he would always tease me, "Hey man, when are you going to, okay, it's great that you're making these films and that you're doing the music. When are you going to write a novel? When are you going to write a novel?" And he dared me, he tried to bribe me, and sometime later, sadly after his death, I was doing a documentary and I was driving my film editor crazy by hovering. And I said, "This is no good. I'm turning him into a tech instead of an editor. He's not getting to use any of his creativity because I'm making the choices. Let me get out of here." And I started writing short fiction, had a couple of things published, and then said, "You know what? Let me see if Ray's prediction was right." And I sat down and tried my luck at a novel, and lo and behold, the publisher said yes.
Well, you've gotten some great blurbs. You got a rave review from Lawrence Turman, who is a highly respected producer and produced, which everybody has heard of, The Graduate. But more interestingly,
yeah,
Larry Merchant. Is Larry Merchant a friend of yours?
I have done a couple of documentaries about sports. I did one about baseball, and then I did one about, most recently, about boxing. And Larry is in both of those. Larry has become a very close friend, and he's one of my favorite people in the world.
Well, I have a friend who's a big sports fan who used to be a manager of a shoe store at 57th and Madison. And he said Larry Merchant walked in one day, and my friend went up to him and went, "Sir, I'm a huge admirer of your work." And the guy said, "Well, I thank you, young man." And the next day, he received tickets to a Broadway show that was produced by Jerome Hellman, because Jerome Hellman, the producer, and Larry Merchant, the sportscaster, look exactly alike. Should tell that story to Larry. And
that's great.
The guy was so embarrassed, he didn't know what to do. He's like, "I know nothing about Broadway. I'll go." Write him a thank you note. He never got to meet. He said he never got to meet Larry Merchant, though.
Well, Larry is a wonderful guy. When I was growing up, he was the #1 sports columnist in New York. So the fact that Larry and I have become friends is very meaningful to me, because I used to sit there and wait for the Post so that I could, when the Post was a different kind of newspaper, mind you.
My father was a headline writer for the Post.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you Mrs. Schiff.
Holly Schiff.
Yeah. It means a lot to me that both Larrys, Larry Turman and Larry Merchant, asked if they could read the book and were gracious enough to write blurbs.
So when is this being released soon? April 2nd?
April 2nd, correct.
Okay.
April 2nd, Harvard Square Press. For people who are going to be in California, there's a book signing at a great bookstore called Book Soup, 7 p.m. on April 4th, and everybody is welcome. And no, we've been very fortunate. People have responded really, really well, which is why the publisher said, "Do you know anybody who can give you blurbs?" And I said, "That's not what I do." Well, people hearing about the book said, "Can I read it? Can I read it? Can I read it?" And they were very, very gracious and generous with their blurbs. So,
well, I'm going to read it as soon as Kim sends it to me, and it sounds hilarious, and I look forward to it. And we'll mention it again right before publication date. And this show is also, of course, heard on a podcast, which people can go to if they go to the WOR website. What is the WOR website? WOR710.com. Well, that was a close one. So go to that and look for my picture. Type in Stribling or Rob Taub on Sunday nights, and you'll find us. There's a podcast that is available in perpetuity. There's a good word. So, Alan, thanks so much for joining us, and I look forward to reading the book.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
This show is sponsored by MC Home Loans. If you need to call them, call Melissa Cohn at 844-667-7300 if you want to inquire about a mortgage or just ask a question. The entire MC Home Loans team would love to hear from you. You can also look at Melissa's blog and website, www.melissacohn.mortgage. That's MELISSACOHN.MORTGAGE. And again, 844-667-7300. You are listening to Stribling's New York on WOR AM radio 710 on your digital dial. You can also go to Stribling's website, www.stribling.com, STRIBLING, or just email Tony Simone. That's the smartest thing to do. T. Simone, TSIMONE, at stribling.com. We have my gosh, I just thought Mark Simone was here earlier. I don't know if there's any relation. They both have mellifluous voices. Unlike mine, I apologize for, I'm battling some allergies and a cold, but I believe I still have my wit.